More like a mana clone, am I right?
Hey.
This is about something. The future. Mysteries.
Prophecy.
Faith. Struggle. Tragedy. Triumph. Purpose. Justice. War. Peace.
Resistance.
Alliance.
Friendship. Family.
Story.
Hi, friends.
Salutations.
And welcome.
This is 9 to 5. I am Sara Ezzat. I make the Pop Culture Critic videos on YouTube.
I'm Ren the Barbarian, aka Ren the Barbarian, the YouTuber. I make videos about Star Trek here on YouTube.
And I'm Zylla Black. I run the YouTube channel Zyllas Athenaeum and do Archeo Gaming streaming at Zillable on Twitch.
And yes, we're here to talk about the Deep Space Nine episode, A Man Alone. Or Men Alone Wrote This Episode.
Yeah, woof.
Eesh. Yeah.
There's so much good in Deep Space Nine, I forget about the bad.
And there's some good in this episode too. But
there's
also, oh boy, the misogyny just keeps coming.
Yeah.
All right, let's do the summary.
A Man Alone, teleplay by Michael Piller, story by Gerald Sanford and Michael Piller, directed by Paul Lynch. We begin in a rather ordinary day on the station, very Coronation Street in space, as various members of the crew get a beer, hang out, have a domestic quarrel, or give misogynistic commentary on other people's domestic quarrels. So much so ordinary, until Odo spots a familiar face at a gaming table and decides to summarily evict him from the station. Unfortunately for Odo, the Federation has this quaint old-fashioned thing called due process, and you can't just punish people you don't like. Odo explains to Sisko that the man is Ibudon, a former black marketeer who Odo arrested for murder under the Cardassians. Ibudon may have been freed with the end of the occupation, but that, to Odo, is not justice. But again, there's that pesky due process thing, and Sisko won't let Odo punish Ibudon based on vibes. Meanwhile, Chief O'Brien and his recently arrived wife Keiko are trying to sort out their domestic issues. They moved to the station as a family from Miles's promotion, but sadly that meant that Keiko had to leave her job as a botanist, a job she loved. And there isn't a role for her here, and on top of that, she's worried that this might not be the right environment for raising kids. An opinion that is reinforced when she watches Jake Sisko and the Ferengi boy Nog get up to some unsupervised shenanigans. What this place needs is a school. What it doesn't need is a locked room murder mystery. And with the arrival of one Ibudon corpse on the locked holodeck, our visit to Space Coronation Street has become interstellar CSI. And from the start, almost all the evidence seems to point to Odo. He does have an airtight alibi of being a puddle of goo at the time of the murder, but that isn't enough to satisfy the anxious Bajoran citizens on the station. First, they insist he's off the case. Then, they vandalize his office. And finally, they form a lynch mob outside his office that Sisko must disperse. As this has been building up, Bashir has been busy sciencing the one bit of non-Odo evidence. He's been growing an unknown blobby thing in his lab from a sample that he took from Ibudon's quarters. And he finally thinks he knows what it is. Keiko has also been busy. She's convinced Sisko to give her space and supplies for the school, because those things are necessary, but qualifications are not. And she's at least attempted to convince Nog's father, Rom, to send him to school as well. The school is all set up, but will the students arrive? Bashir shows off his blobby thing to the rest of the crew. Turns out he's accidentally created life. Cloned life. In fact, a clone of Ibudon. And it's from the remnants of the cloning process Ibudon himself used to make the clone body that was the actual murder victim. So where is the real Ibudon? Presumably the real murderer? Well, possibly he's the suspicious-looking hooded man who's been suspiciously lurking around the whole time? The one quietly trying to skip town? Odo confronts him, unmasks him, and sends him off to the magistrate for clone murder. And thus ends Interstellar CSI. And as Bashir's accidental creation is yada-yada'd into a new life, Keiko welcomes students to her new school, and so normality returns to the station.
So, initial thoughts?
Zilla?
Oh, the misogyny, it is in so many ways in this one, not just so much. It's very weird to have both Odo and Dax talking about how they don't do relationships for neither of them for reasons that make any sense, or in ways that make any sense. Like, for Odo, it's like, who wants a woman? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Woman is just a person who nags you into doing stuff you don't want, which is very weird for somebody who reads as completely non-binary and probably Arrow Ace.
Diversity when this non-binary person is a misogynist.
Right.
And we all pour one out for Sandra Pillar, the wife of Michael Pillar, because boy, it must have been fun to be the wife of the man who wrote that.
Yeah.
She's like, she watched that episode and then she's like, what's wrong with Klingon opera?
I mean, apparently she's quite devoted and like eulogized him after his death and everything, but oh boy.
Everyone has something good about them, and someone else surely knows what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so excited that we were finally introduced to, Keiko, after, we talked about her. If there are no Keiko defenders on this planet, it means that I've passed on, because I will always defend Keiko O'Brien.
I am a little bit jarred by I've always thought about being a teacher. Like, what? And that, what? Sorry?
I've always thought about being a teacher. Okay, good. How about some post-grad courses then?
Yeah. So for those who don't
different
know,
than a botanist.
Teaching is not just a thing that women can do. It's a thing you actually have to learn how to do and get trained in, and generally have at least a secondary degree in order to do in any real capacity. I mean, I know that the whole tradwife movement thing is going on, and the whole radical unschooling, which is, oh boy, which is just not teaching your kids anything, which is different from unschooling, which is a form of homeschooling. But holy moly, that was what I was gonna get at, is okay, we've got Odo giving the Republican Party line on women, but then we have Keiko, who she's got a supportive husband, and they're fighting because she's unhappy where they moved to. Why did they move without her having a plan? What?
Right.
People don't just pick up and move their lives, even with spouses. What?
Apparently you've never
and of
been
course,
an army wife.
the relevant things about her are that she is a mother, a wife who gets in arguments with her husband, and that she has decided to be a school teacher. Because that's one of the two jobs allowed to women, right? School teacher and nurse.
I will say there are a lot of substitute teachers out there who don't have degrees, but are basically doing the same jobs as teachers, because it's a shit show out there for both full-time teachers and substitute teachers.
Oh, it has gotten so bad.
Yeah, I mean, my initial thoughts, I really enjoy Dex and Cisco's stuff, and I enjoy some of the interplay with Quirk and Odo, and we'll talk about that. And it's not a bad murder mystery. We do kind of accidentally Frankenstein a person, but it is.
Do we really have to create a whole new clone? Because wouldn't that have created a clone if it was a humanoid piece of DNA anyway? Or even something else? You would have cloned an animal or something. You knew it was DNA.
Yeah, I'm surprised they couldn't compare the DNA of the dead Ibudon to the DNA they found in his ship and be like, hey, these are the same. He must be making clones.
This is not how forensics works. Just like this is not how teaching works. And boy, do we need to have a conversation with Bashir about how that's not how dating works.
Bashir just needs some ethics lessons in general.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure when the Ibudon clone turns up on his doorstep, saying, you birthed me and left me alone in the and he gets
And then he
floated
chases
out on
Bashir
an
all the way
ice.
to the Arctic.
He gets floated out on an ice. Yeah. No, like this is messy. This is messy. So to get into some of the messy stuff, let's talk about the Keiko of it all first, because you'd be surprised to hear there is a segment of the fandom who do not like Keiko. And there's a perception that Keiko is this terrible character and this awful wife. And why would that be when we introduce her like this? We introduce her with Odo giving a commentary on "Take My Wife, Please." And I'm going to read Odo's stupid monologue for a second. And it also, why is this coming out of this man's mouth? But you've never coupled? Chose not to. Too many compromises. You want to watch the Taronet tournament. She wants to listen to music. So you compromise. You listen to music. You like Earth jazz. I really doubt he does. She prefers Klingon opera. So you compromise. You listen to Klingon opera. So here you were, ready to have a nice night watching the Taronet match, and you wind up spending an agonizing evening listening to Klingon opera.
Have you noticed that's not how compromise works either?
Go to marriage counseling.
Like, couples don't do, like, their own parallel activities, like, at the same time, but separately. Like the wife couldn't just listen to headphones.
Yeah. Like, I mean, and my folks are in a somewhat more traditional nowadays with marriage, and it wasn't as much when they were, but they, like, my mom does the thing of, like, being his extra, memory and, telling him where his socks are and if they watch the thing, but still they don't have this. Like, this is a really, it's, and I read a little bit about Michael Pillar because I was wondering, like, where does this come from? And his parents, like, his dad was a Hollywood screenwriter from that previous. It's like, okay, so we've preserved. We're not just doing a Roger Dangerfield impression here. We're like doing the Honeymooners, because we have someone who grew up, who's the son of the writers of people of that generation, and
literally straight to the moon.
Yeah, we've got some really unexamined shit, and I was reminded of in Vera Wild and Jesse Gender's podcast on Battlestar Galactica. Vera has taken to just going straight to camera and saying, "Just run, go to therapy," and I'm just like, Michael Pillar, go to marriage counseling. What the fuck is?
I once heard a colleague of mine talk about his wife in this kind of way, and I just looked at him and I'm like, are you happy in your marriage? And he was so taken aback, like that was a completely out of nowhere question. And I'm like, do you enjoy spending time with your wife? Because it sounds like you don't.
Do you like this person?
It just was a complete shock to his system, because, like, of course he loves his wife. He's married, This is just how you talk about your spouse, apparently. Like, oh, no, absolutely not.
And I should say, I have heard women talk about men in similarly disparaging. Yeah. It's different. It's, oh, he's so helpless. He needs me to do everything for him, which is,
he can't remember this. He won't ask for directions. Like the similar thing exists, but
my husband is a child,
and it's born of the exact same problem, and that problem is misogyny and patriarchy. It is putting all of the emotional labor onto women and then denigrating them for it.
Yeah. I don't like she makes all the decisions, and she's like, I don't like that I make all the decisions. Like, oh my God. Straight people, what the fuck are you doing?
I have to imagine that Odo learned about heterosexual relationships by watching, like, king of queens and everyone loves Raymond.
Right, because, like, what does he even know? He's like, I've never wanted to. He doesn't understand the urge to couple. And he doesn't mean sex in this context, although Quark makes it sound like he does.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's never understood the urge to pair up. He says it outright, and then he goes into this rant that, like, makes no sense from his perspective.
It makes it sound like he's speaking from experience, and he's not.
And also, the couple that they're observing while they're doing this, Keiko has done the huge compromise of moving for Miles's career. Like, that is a huge compromise. And yeah, people do that. Army wives and husbands do this for their spouses. They will move. I've known some, you've probably known some, who make huge sacrifices and, you know, have to restart big careers. And, you know, they're not the only ones, you know, like
academic marriages, because they're often across the country or out of the country. You know, people who work for big multinational corporations getting shuffled around the world, all sorts of people. But you don't do it out of nowhere.
No, but I think it's service people often have less time to plan and organize these things. So which is the thing that I think they're sort of borrowing from here, because you know, they get deployed and whatever, and so they have
and the families go with them. That's just a thing that happens with Army families.
Maybe I'm showing my lack of familiarity with armed services here, because I definitely did not grow up around a lot of that.
Yeah, nor have I, but I've gotten to know a few people who were involved in various ways in that life. They don't go like to the front, but they will go to the new base, and they will have all the stuff. There's a big base on in my city. And yeah, they're big family housing and fast turnover, and people will find themselves and then in a place and then have to sort of figure out a new career, or a new, like, figure out some job training and stuff. And that's how I got, you know, I went to school with a woman who was doing that. And yeah, I mean, it's a choice people make, and it's a good, we don't support the families nearly enough, with what they actually need, like money. But
a lot of Army wives are basically just free of, like, luggage.
And in the case of Starfleet, Keiko and Miles met on the Enterprise. In TNG, we see their wedding, and the Enterprise had, like, scientific capacities, and she was part of a botany team there.
Yeah. And she's a civilian. She's not like an official part of Starfleet. She's more like a civilian scientist who was in the botany division. And now that she's on Deep Space Nine, she's complaining because it's like, there's no place for me here. I'm just your wife with nothing to do.
Which is a totally reasonable thing to be upset about. I mean, like, it's not like this argument is about, you know,
Klingon opera.
You didn't do this for me. This argument is about, I'm not happy here, and are you sure this is the right thing for our family? Like, that's a totally different style of argument from what Odo and Quark start talking about, but it's framed as if it's a natural move from one to the other.
Yeah, and it's like, we talk about it as an argument, but it's like they are generally trying to work through their issues. They're not screaming and yelling. They're not throwing furniture. They're trying to work out how to make their marriage work. And she has legitimate concerns about this place not being the best place to raise their daughter, and wanting to make it better. And I applaud her idea of starting a school, but
Find some teachers.
Find some teachers.
I will say, at least O'Brien is actually like hearing her and sympathizing and saying like, "I'm really sorry. I wish I could fix this for you." Like, instead of just like being like,
up with ideas.
"I'm the man. I tell you what to do." It's really like not an unreasonable argument on her point, but when it's juxtapositioned with Odo's Klingon opera remark, it makes a non-discerning audience think, oh, she's just a nagging shrew, which will, believe me, happen more and more going forward with Keiko. Poor Keiko.
Yeah, and it's just she's just a person trying to make her way. And anyway, this is Rosalind Chow is our actor, and I think it bears noting that Keiko is a Japanese character, but Rosalind Chow is a Chinese actor. This is not something they expected us to notice. A Chinese American actor. She got her start, of course, playing. One of her first roles was on MASH, where she plays Klingon's wife or Klinger's wife, which is just that's.
I don't know if you've seen the Freaky Friday remake with Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis, but she's the younger lady who works at the Chinese restaurant where they get the magic fortune cookies that make them swap bodies.
Mm-hmm.
She's the one at the end who's yelling, "Grandpa, Harry, no!"
Yeah, she's got a remarkable career. Of course, she was in Joy Luck Club as well, which is excellent if you've ever watched that. Yeah, she's been in everything and played every kind of Asia, every culture of Asia, because Hollywood has a tendency not to.
Hollywood does not know the difference between different East Asian countries at all.
Yeah. Sulu didn't even have like an official nationality until like Paracanon made him Japanese, like George Takei is.
Yeah.
And Sulu isn't a Japanese name.
Yeah, like, it's the name of a river. They just wanted him to like represent like pan East Asian cultures, which like no.
Like Bashir is just randomly Swana of some variety. But anyway, I really like Rosalind Chow as an actor, and I like Keiko as a character, but I do not like the way that the writers frequently frame her, and it starts from this beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't remember her getting a bad framing on Enterprise or on TNG. But
yeah. But she didn't get much of a framing at all on TNG.
Yeah.
Really, the only unreasonable thing she does in this episode is presume to just be a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And not just a teacher, not just in like her specialty or anything, but just like, I'm going to start a general school for children of, varied backgrounds.
I have to assume that since it is such a wide age range of students that they have like pre-made course curriculums like on their computers that they do, and she's just more there in like a facilitatory manner to make sure they're on task and stuff and maybe lead some group projects.
Yeah, I mean, Jake talks about he's been doing effectively correspondence.
Yeah. I mean, like, clearly there's something that the Federation has, but like, the part of the point of the difficulty of setting up the school was people's objections to a Federation education for their children, and particularly the Romulan opposition to not just a Federation person, but a woman.
You mean the Ferengi?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. What did I say?
Romulan.
You said Romulan.
Oh no. Sorry.
Different ears.
We knew what you meant.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is more world building. There's a lot of world building in this episode, actually. But yeah, the Ferengi being a very misogynistic culture is a thing that they're continuing to set up here.
Yes, will his son
absolutely drooling over every female in sight.
Yes, and we get the introduction of females, and now forever when you hear the incels talk, you may hear it in a Ferengi voice of females.
I mean,
Fit and fresh or just a pair of Ferengi.
that was one of the memes that escaped containment. I already did.
Yeah.
People use Simpson gifs for things, and I'm like, yeah, I didn't watch The Simpsons, but I know what this meme is. I've seen it everywhere. Every time that somebody says females, like they put a little like gif of Quark, and I'm familiar with this.
But yeah, we do get with this discussion of Ferengi parenting, and a bit more about the Ferengi society. And yes, Rom will evolve. We will
So
see
Rom
very
is the
different
Ferengi
Rom.
dad.
Yes,
Okay.
the Ferengi family. We have Quark, and his brother Rom, and Rom's son Nog.
And we saw Rom's son Nog in the first episode with that thieving.
Yeah. This is what we call early installment weirdness, because Rom's character and cadence aren't fully set up yet, but like there are shades of it there already.
Well, first of all, he wasn't drooling over Keiko, which was a nice plus, considering how Quark seems to be with any woman at all. But second of all, like, even when he was saying no to Keiko's idea, he was clearly intrigued by it. Like, he liked the idea, but he was trying to figure out how to pitch it to other people, basically. So, like, clearly he cares about his kid.
Yeah.
Which it sounds like, you know, they might not be supposed to in their society. It sounds a little like agoge, but for kids somehow. I don't know how that works, but
I don't think it's a spoiler to say that Rom is a very caring dad.
And also he clearly likes the idea of his son learning other things besides merchanting, or at least besides just one view on merchanting.
I don't know if you noticed, but Rom was working in Quark's bar, which will come up later.
Yeah, that will be a thing. Yeah. So then we should maybe talk about Nog.
It was pretty funny, you know, seeing Jake and Nog hang out, and like how Nog was kind of like, no talking, me Angie. You know, like, and then suddenly they're up to hijinks.
Yep.
I mean, their hijinks weren't particularly terrible. Like, I wouldn't want to be the target of them, but like, you know, as pranks go, that one went away in less than 5 minutes. It's fine.
It didn't cause any permanent damage.
Yeah. They weren't like stealing alcohol and getting drunk on the promenade or something.
Yeah. They were just like, hee, let's give them itching powder.
Yeah. I actually really liked, again, that moment where Sisko and Jake were interacting, and Sisko's like, I don't want you to see him again. And I was like, that's oddly harsh.
Yeah.
And then Jake is like playfully running away, like clearly his dad is going to be able to catch up with him. They're still in their quarters.
Yeah.
But you're like, I thought you didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah. They have, I feel like we say this every episode, but they have such a good relationship. I love it.
Yeah.
And Cirroc Lofton, he's so talented for such a young actor. I don't normally like child acting. It's usually awkward, which, you know, that's not really their fault. They don't have a lot of experience, but it's clearly he had really good direction. We've
also got Max, not sure how to pronounce this, Grondenchik as Rom, and Aaron Eisenberg as Nog. He passed away a few years ago. He's beloved by the fandom. Lovely man.
I think he passed away the same year that Renee Auberjonois passed away.
Yeah, it was a bad year.
Yeah.
But yeah, the two young actors are very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Aaron Eisenberg is playing younger than he was at the time. Because he's a smaller stature.
Short King.
Actually, one thing I thought was really interesting was the moment where Jake's like, he's the only kid on the station close to my age, and Keiko like clearly doesn't get what he means.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, because 8 to 16 is a huge range of different like mental states and emotional capabilities.
Right.
It's way bigger than an 8-year difference later in life.
Yeah, Jake is like what, 16 right now? He's not going to hang out with an 8-year-old.
No.
I don't think he's yet 16. I think he's like 14 or 15. But also, like, there's all the Bajoran kids will all probably click together, at least at first. It might be harder to get to know, like, to be the human in the Bajoran station, but the human and the Ferengi have an easier time of it, even though, like, they have less in common than he might with a Bajoran. Like, they are the two men alone.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
God, the title of this episode is just in so many things here.
The title is taken from a Western from 1955, which they've clearly borrowed the plot from as well. There's a gunslinger who comes to town. He's lost. His horse has died, and he runs across a stagecoach that's been robbed on his way, and so he borrows one of the horses. So then the sheriff, or the big man of the town, falsely blames him for the stagecoach robbery, even though the guy actually, he overhears the guy. I read the synopsis. I didn't watch the film, but apparently he overhears that it's actually the powerful town guy who did who set up the robbery, and so our hero has to hide with a pretty young woman and her dad.
Yeah.
Before.
Yeah.
And
It's one of
et
those,
cetera.
Yeah. It's one of those titles that has multiple meanings, because Odo is clearly the man alone, because he's the only shapeshifter on the station, and he's a marginalized individual, especially in this episode, with there's like a literal lynch mob like lines up outside his office. But then also it refers to Ibudan, because he was the man alone responsible for the murder, quote unquote, plot,
and was alone in the holodeck.
Yeah,
with the
clone of himself. That masseuse was not real. She was a holodeck character.
I know, but I just wanted to point out this weirdly persistent, it's not a myth, but it's so widely conflated between massage and sex worker, and this is also very often exoticized as an East Asian thing. And so I used to work at a massage therapy clinic, and it was titled Massage Therapy Clinic, not massage parlor, not masseuse, not any of those things. Not that should make a difference, because we should just be allowed to have sex workers do their work. Mm-hmm. But we would get calls sometimes asking for services.
Happy endings.
That we did not provide. It just bothered me, okay?
Yeah.
This again.
Yes.
Yeah. On TNG, the holodecks are sort of portrayed as oh, this is for pseudo shore leave and LARPing as Sherlock Holmes or Robin Hood, and it's on Deep Space Nine, it's no, they're for sex.
I mean, there's also definite. We'll have some LARPing and some variations of that in the holodeck stuff, but the holodecks are owned by Quark, and he is the purveyor of gambling and porn, because it's
essentially a holo brothel.
I mean, that does suit his style. Can't say it doesn't.
Yep, and this is very much of this moment that we have a show that has some good female characters, but we've also got this malaise of misogyny. So we've also got the Dabo girls in their outfits, just being scenery, and we need a setup for this holodeck thing, which I don't think it actually adds anything. Seeing him being stabbed. So we're gonna take the opportunity to have a sexy thing. And it didn't, malaise of misogyny. It's just kind of everywhere.
Yeah, and that's the other thing about A Man Alone is it's very incel in it. It's also Odo's random misogyny and also Bashir's weird inceldom.
Yeah, God,
Dogged
I much
nice
prefer.
guy.
I so much prefer Bashir being awkwardly hit on by
Garrick.
Garrick. Although Garrick wasn't the awkward one. It was awkwardly receiving, and like Garrick gave a pretty good masterclass in how to approach and be like, "This is something that is available to you."
Yeah.
I am
and
interested,
Bashir is
but
like,
there is a way out.
And Bashir is like, I'm interested. Will you go to dinner with me yet?
Please,
Will you go to dinner with me yet? It's like,
please. God. Can I riz you up? Please.
No. Oh, God.
How many times does she have to say no?
And like, there is some comedy that can be had in, the awkwardly bad at doing this. But it's not done here. It's not done well here, and it just kind of overrides her autonomy. And this is when I think it's good to talk about Dax, because we get some excellent Dax and only one person treating her with any respect, which is Cisco.
And even then, his camaraderie is treated with suspect. It's like, oh, he must be into her. It's like, no, they, believe it or not, a man and woman can be just friends.
Mm-hmm. But apparently only because the man still kind of sees her as a man. Yeah. I think we got some good sort of accidental subtext, an accidental coding in terms of the discussion of she used to be a man.
Yeah.
And the
pronoun slip up.
Yes, and
her.
Yeah, and I think like the whole bit where he's able to just do that, to just get over it and correct himself without it being a big deal, is I think a good thing. And the thing that I really liked about this episode was Dax's discussion about the importance of being comfortable with discomfort.
I was really interested in, well, of course, I was really interested in the puzzle. Like that's very me. And interestingly, I have no idea if this technology even existed at the time, but there is actually basically this that I've seen used in therapy of like trying to calm your mind and produce specific brainwave patterns to change a visual image. We have that now, and it's actually quite useful. And so the idea of this puzzle was really, really cool. And the idea that it's taken Dax 140 years to get it most of the way was kind of funny to me. But I'm interested that she was trying, like that this is a puzzle that is of a type that is out there for Trill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it could be for anybody. Not for Bashir, obviously, because he cannot stay on any topic except
he's too distracted by the horny
for more than 2 seconds.
I do love our little ADHD boy, but not like this.
I did appreciate that he decided to play again without her there.
Yeah.
Like, okay, that is a good choice. Not just like, good, build your brainwaves, get control of yourself, but also like get interested in something she's interested in. Mm-hmm. If you like somebody, you don't just like pour them champagne and hope they sex you. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
As
we saw in the pilot from Bashir's unfortunate frontier medicine comment, he is very hungry for new and various experiences.
This is a thing. This is kind of a brand new Doctor thing, because medical doctors do get stuck in like schooling for a ridiculous amount of time with no breaks, and they can kind of end up sometimes having a bit of a delayed adolescence.
I mean, I think that's often sort of like it's often true of people who've had really intense absorbing experiences, regardless of what it is. Like you get this, well, to take it to the extreme and disordered end of it, you get this with parentified children, where often once they reach adulthood and they're not responsible for anybody but themselves, they will start experiencing things in a much more childlike way that they never had when they were a kid. And like that can be fine, or it can be really destructive depending how it's handled and all that jazz. But like it's a human tendency. You need some amount of freedom to experience. And it's not really good that we have so many ways of denying that to people.
I think there's also a reading, because to go with the Bashir is bisexual and ADHD, there's a queer temporality thing to this. That this is this theory that for queer folks, time is not required to follow, our lives are not required to follow the cis het, timeline of goals and this and these happen, and so there can be a bit of a queer temporality of things coming in their way at their time. And also like some of us who are neurodivergent and ADHD maybe kind of have don't necessarily grow into the most adulty adults, and
even those of us who were born 40, I have no sense of time passing. Mm-hmm. That is part of my ADHD. It has been with me for all of my life. If I don't have a clock in front of me, I do not know how much time has passed. I mean, or other indicators. Like I can tell if the sun set. Okay, yeah. But like, I don't know if we've been recording for 5 minutes or for 30 minutes or for an hour. It's all the same to my brain. It's not uncommon for there to be some distorted senses of time among neurodivergent folks. And talking of queer time, just makes me think of Aronnoch's video on the subject, which was very good.
Yeah.
Recommending that to our viewers if you're interested in the concept.
Still, even though we want to be kind of understanding of him being both like 28 and 12, the behavior around Dax needs to stop. But I know that Ren, you had thoughts on the men and Dax.
Yeah, she did help out a little bit with the investigation on Ibudan, but really, like, she was really just more there to be sort of like reacted to by men. Like you have Quark, who's just like got his tongue hanging out of his mouth, staring up at her, and you have Bashir, the dogged nice guy, who I think his persistence is supposed to be charming in the minds of the male writer who did this, but from a 2026 perspective is just cringe. And then you have Cisco, who, we're exploring more of his like deconstructing and rebuilding dynamic with Jadzia, because, like we said, it's like, he's still thinking of her in terms of Curzon. He even calls her a male pronoun by accident at one point and corrects himself. And she says, like, you have to get comfortable with the discomfort. But yeah, I kind of do feel a little bit sad that, like, with so much focus on her, we didn't really get to develop her that much. Like, it was really just more focusing on people's reactions to her. Like, she was very much an object in this episode rather than a character. And that makes me sad because I've said it before, Jadzia is my favorite character.
Yeah, and I keep coming back to the very odd way that she talked about not wanting a relationship.
Yeah.
Because she was trying to discourage Bashir. She was trying to have an honest conversation with him about Trill relationships. And yet she felt the need to bring up that sometimes bodies feel these needs. And not just for sex, but for romance. And it's like, wait, I thought you were trying to discourage him. Why did you bring that up? Like, that's a thing you could bring up with Sisko. Sisko already knows, presumably, based on that story he cut off midway through, that at least, Trill do engage in sexual relationships. But, like, it's a very valid thing to be like, yeah, I'm several hundred years old. I've lived approximately 6 or 7 lifetimes with a bunch of melded personalities and different bodies with different needs. It's totally valid to be like, I don't think it's a good idea for me to be in a relationship with somebody who doesn't have that perspective. But that's not what she said.
Yeah.
And that was really what got to me. And that's, it's again kind of down to the writing, down to the way that this episode really is treating her more as a foil for everybody else. And then it also did give me the impression that while Sisko at this point cannot see her as a woman, that they wanted to open that pathway, that maybe someday they will be in a relationship. And is like, I don't want them to.
No.
I am an anti-ship.
Yeah, the whole exchange with her and Bashir and her being like, oh, you don't understand the way Trills love, even though we do have those urges sometimes. And he's like, but you do have them sometimes. And the whole thing just reeked of amononormativity, which, for the listeners who don't know what that means, it's basically just the notion that everybody has romantic feelings and wants to be in a romantic relationship. It's a bit like heteronormativity.
And a monogamous one at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's her shutting him down while the writer is still saying, but it's okay for you to fancy her, to the audience. It's the same thing feeling I get from what they did in the pilot with Kira, of she gets to be this cool, awesome, badass, but we're gonna have Quark sexualize her to remind the audience that it's okay to sexualize her. We're still doing the thing, and it's very much of this time. I don't want to be. I think there are. Well, this is incredibly misogynistic. I think there are attempts from, some aspects of production, perhaps from the writer, I don't know, to be trying to progress, but so stuck in this misogynistic, old-fashioned mindset that, like, it's the terroir, which is a concept from winemaking that my friend and critic Lonnie Diane Rich talks about. The idea is that whatever is in the soil gets into the grapes, gets into the wine. And if you don't sort of examine the biases and the ideas and the notions that are in the soil, in the environment in which you live, if you don't examine that when you are writing, then it gets into the writing. And you then have an opportunity, because it's very normal to have that stuff get in, and you then have an opportunity with like editors and stuff to look at it and then filter shit out. Like, it doesn't, you can deal with the stuff, and you can speak to actual women, although we know from the last episode that the actual woman in the writing room is the same woman who wrote Code of Honor, so maybe not her. But like,
when looking at actual women to consult about writing women, do not choose Ayn Rand.
Yeah, like, not just having a woman in the writer's room is not going to do it. But
I read Ayn Rand. Am I a feminist?
Yeah, and Margaret Thatcher was the first girl power. The Spice Girls actually said that, and I think that just broke something in my brain forever. But yeah, like, it reminds me of Buffy, where we get an attempt to write strong women, an attempt to break the mold, but
it's Joss Whedon.
So much unexamined shit. Yeah.
I never watched Buffy, not really. But I did watch the first season of Dollhouse.
And that's some of the worst of Joss Whedon.
Yeah.
It was real in your face how it was like misogynist trope plus fighting.
Mm.
Yeah. Talk about a woman as a literal empty vessel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're going to comment on the thing while doing the thing. Yeah.
Some of the things in that show were really interesting, as Joss Whedon is wont to do. And then some of them were just like, you did not think about the implications of that, did
you? Yeah.
That man is all concept.
Yes, but we don't want to get too lost into the... Yeah, and again, something that has an awful lot of messy terroir that didn't get examined. Mm-hmm. And so I don't want to totally condemn the creative team of this, Michael Pillar. And interestingly enough, considering where this episode goes, the director's name is Rob Lynch. But
yeah, let's talk about that lynch mob, shall we? So those Bajorans were very weird, weren't they? Like, they were just very strange, especially the leader, but that might just have been his face. I'm sorry to that actor. Your face is real weird.
He kind of reminded me of the guy from Happy Gilmore who says, "I eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast." You eat pieces of shit for breakfast?
Yeah, they had intentions to bring this guy back as like a regular problem citizen to deal with, but it didn't work out. But yeah, the lynch mob, the townsfolk, is very one-dimensional.
I'm surprised they weren't literally carrying pitchforks and torches.
And now we're just picturing them actually carrying porches. It seems difficult. Like maybe one porch with that size of mob.
But that and the bloopers.
Oh, sorry, it was Paul Lynch. Gerald Sanford is the story pitcher. It was his story. They were coming up with, they wanted to do like several layered stories, and they were kind of thinking about doing like Hill Street Blues ideas. Anyway, so regarding the first of the three storylines, so the three storylines they were focusing on was Keiko in the school, Dax and the men, and the murder subplot. And the murder subplot. And so regarding the murder subplot, Gerald Sanford commented, "I thought it might be an interesting show to have someone accuse Odo of being a Nazi of the Cardassians who had murdered people. He's accused of this, although we find out later it's not true. So what I wanted to do was a story about what one's false accusations could lead to. In my original version, the only one who believed Odo was innocent was Sisko, but even he starts to doubt him. He had to really go out on a limb, and finally there's so much evidence that goes against Odo, and he too has to believe it, even his own crew begins to say, hey, when you're caught up in the regime, you begin acting like the regime. I really did want to say something in that aspect of the installment. So that was a really interesting idea. That it's too early in the show, I think, to go fully there. But the idea of having Odo be faced with his complicity in the past regime is interesting. We don't do that here. We sort of accept him as he's sort of treated as a just lawman.
Yeah, lawful neutral.
Somehow.
Yeah, even though he's like, what's due process? Fuck due process.
Such a cop.
Yeah.
So one thing I found really interesting about the way that Odo was sort of treating things is like he has a point that laws change and what's legal changes, and that what's legal isn't always what's right. But he's using it all backwards.
Yeah. This is exceptionally
to perpetuate injustice instead of
laws change, and I'm going to change the law myself.
Like, is it justice he's interested in, or order? That is a question that I want to keep coming back to with when we have Odo-centered questions episodes, because I think he talks about justice, but is he really talking about justice?
And that's a point that Sisko brings up when he's talking to the mob, which I thought was interesting, is like, do you really want some kind of justice here, or are you just venting your anger?
Yeah. Take it to a court of law.
Mm.
And that is a real question that people don't get asked all that frequently. Like, you know, in all sorts of ways, because we're in some ways trained to denigrate our emotions and not to accept expressions of emotions as valid, which makes us talk about our emotional reactions as if they're justified by something else. You know, men will justify their anger in, you know, men will do anything other than go to therapy, blah, 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 blah. You know, like, but like,
I mean, yeah,
go to marriage counseling anyway.
Yeah.
But like, you know, it's like, you know, facts don't care about your feelings, except A, they kind of do, and B, the only reason you're saying that is feelings.
Yeah.
Like, your feelings are valid. You have them. It's worth expressing them in a way that doesn't hurt anybody, so that you don't wind up channeling them into something that does hurt somebody, like a lynch mob.
I do find the irony of, you know, at the beginning of the episode, Odo being like, I'm going to kick that guy off the station, and Sisko being like, he didn't actually do anything. You can't just force him off based on vibes. And then at the end, Sisko again having to be like, hey, you can't just lynch mob this guy based on vibes. You have to, there's due process for a reason.
And they say it's the evidence, and it's like, you don't have the evidence.
Yeah. There's a difference.
Kind of the point.
There's a difference between evidence and proof. Evidence suggests that something may have happened one way. Proof is something that proves it did actually happen that way.
And evidence takes time to collect.
Mm-hmm.
And should really be done by someone other than just the station's general practitioner. But
also, like...
but plot.
It was totally reasonable to remove Odo from this case, even before he was a suspect.
Mm-hmm.
Because he did have a conflict of interest.
Mm-hmm.
He openly wanted to deport this guy before the murder. So in the murder, you say, look, we're not relieving you of your total duties. We're just putting someone else in charge of this particular case. Don't interfere.
Yeah. You have a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
So, like...
And also, he shouldn't be arresting the guy in the last scene. I know, forced story is dramatic. Yes. But
yeah, they want Odo to have his big hero moment. However, it all comes back to that whole frontier justice thing. I think I think the imagery of the lynch mob definitely harkens back to westerns and Cisco, even though Odo is supposed to be our, sheriff keeping the peace in this small frontier town, like it's really Cisco who takes that role in this episode.
Yeah. And we bring up ideas of justice and order and all these things, but it's really just kind of a fart in the general direction of justice and order and things like even and it is a bit much to go to the lynch mob shelf in when we're not really delving into, like, that is a strong ingredient to bring in when you're not really going to deal with it at all. And especially when you're going to have someone have a line like, how do you get a rope around the neck of a shapeshifter? And also, like, we have a hate crime in his office being vandalized and everything. And like,
that was one other thing I thought was really strange is, like, they wrote something that was not English.
I think it's supposed to say shifter.
It said shet.
I saw the SH and
I mean, I'm sure that was the intent, but it really didn't get there.
And it's also like, what did they write that with? That was an interesting production design.
A phaser, maybe? I don't know. I
did like that it showed how close Odo and Quark are.
Yes.
As best frenemies.
Mm-hmm.
But the moment where Odo actually asks him, like, hey, could you use a shapeshifter in your org? I don't think he was joking.
I don't know.
I get why Quark was like, haha, no, you had me for a second. But, like, also I'm like, I'm not sure he was joking. I think he's been ousted from his post and he is, like, ready to just heel turn.
I find it so interesting that we open with Odo and his opinions on heterosexuality when it's like his closest relationship in this episode was with Quark.
Yeah, and this is a thing. There are people who ship these two.
Yeah.
Because they have a very adversarial tension that is they do have chemistry. But I don't see it as, personally, I don't see it as a sexual chemistry. I see it as to me, this does read very much as a homosocial relationship. Not just because we have Quark drooling over every female shaped being ever. Like, it doesn't, comparing that to the quality that Garrick and Bashir had last episode, it doesn't feel like it has that.
It doesn't have that tension to it.
It's not worth bringing out the fans for.
No. And I do, this is a relationship that is really interesting to me, and I really enjoy it as a relationship, but I do not feel it is in any way a romantic or sexual relationship. And it's fine if you do. If you want to tell us about how, okay, don't give us any details, but if this is a ship that works for you, cool. Whatever floats your boat.
For me, it's more of like, I ship it because it's funny, not because I actually see chemistry.
Like, there is decided chemistry. It's just like, this is not yaoi. This is two this is two middle-aged men who have a contentious relationship.
These are grill buddies. These are like the rival grill dads of the neighborhood. Right?
You know who they remind me of? I don't know if either of you have seen the sitcom Vicious. It only ran for like 2 short seasons. It had Ian McKellen and Derek Jacobi as an elderly gay couple, and the whole episode and the whole series is just them being absolutely nasty to each other. Just like I can't wait until you drop dead. Yeah, me either. So I can get away from you.
Except those two do have a quality that feels more like they're like that the arguing is foreplay. This doesn't feel like the arguing is foreplay. It's the arguing is friendship. Anyway. Friendship by another name, by another mean. But again, if this is your ship to your heart's content.
Yeah.
Everybody's got their thing, and there are a few ships that I would say are unacceptable. And yeah,
I do think it's interesting, going back to the lynch mob, I do think it's interesting that, it's not just that they think that he's a murderer. Like, they bring, like, what he is into it.
Yeah.
Like,
Make it about him being a
Yeah.
shapeshifter. They even chant it at him. And it's really weird because it feels like it's out of nowhere.
the suspicion brings out the prejudice against him, which it's like, if he was a Cardassian, like, okay, I can understand it because the Cardassians had victimized them earlier. But it also does speak to the fact that he is, even though he's not a Cardassian, he is still very much marginalized on this ship. And he literally doesn't know what species he is. He just knows he's a shapeshifter of some kind. And, the suspicion against him, like I said, it brings out the prejudice in these people of, like, hating what they don't know and don't understand.
We don't like what we don't understand. In fact, it scares us.
Yeah, but it is pretty unfounded, and especially as there is a foundation that could be there in that he did work for the previous regime.
Mm-hmm.
And he is kind of a dictatorial hard ass in some ways.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he runs his promenade the way he runs it. And we got that in the first time we met him when he, yelled at Cisco for having a weapon on promenade.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, it's not like there aren't things they could have brought in there that are already established that would have made sense, but having it be about his race was real odd.
Yeah.
And like you said, like this is a real heavy ingredient to bring into the mix without something to balance it. And I think I was saying earlier, it feels unjustified, not just in terms of, like, of course, nothing justifies a lynch mob, but also in terms of story and narrative. It's not like there wasn't prejudice against him among that particular Bajoran group.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of, the other people joining in kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah. I mean, I think some of the laying of the Whisper Network was done well. There were some aspects of it that were done well, but for the most part, it comes out of nowhere and it dissipates out of, like, it just blows away after one phaser shot, and it just doesn't work. And especially with the B plots, B and C plots, not really, there's no thematic connection between these plots. Like, there is the sort of person alone aspect that we have talked about, but that doesn't feel like enough of a through line.
Yeah,
because they're alone in different ways, and they don't reflect on each other. And the tonal shift between the creating the school and the lynch mob.
It would have been nice if we'd had maybe a scene with, like, him and Kira and him talking about how it feels to be on this station and to be the only one of his kind, and how isolating it feels. Like, that would have tied in nicely with them all of a sudden being like, yeah, and he's a shapeshifter and we can't trust him.
And it's also odd that he's upset about Kira taking over the investigation, because he trusts Kira. We've seen that.
Kira's been his biggest cheerleader this whole episode.
Mm-hmm. And he hers the previous.
Yeah.
And, like, there could have maybe been a moment perhaps to have the Keiko story and then the murder story connect, had, like, instead of Cisco dispersing the mob, had she spoken to the mob and, like, displayed a teacherly ability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please indicate that she can teach. Because just because you know something doesn't mean you can teach it. I know this is a popular myth, but just think of all the teachers that you have probably had.
Every math teacher ever.
We will return to the school, and I think you will love the episode in which we return to the school.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
Every math teacher I've ever had is very good at math, but is terrible at teaching math.
because the skills you need to teach are not the ones you need for math.
Yeah.
I know some very good math teachers. I've had some very good math teachers, and they are the exception, and it's really sad.
Yeah. When
Because math is
Cisco
just puzzles, and I like puzzles, but I don't like math anymore, and it's because I had some terrible teachers.
when Cisco fired the phaser into the ceiling twice, that made me crack up, because I understand what you're replicating. You're doing that thing that they do in the westerns where they shoot their pistol into the sky twice to get everybody's attention and shut everybody up.
But A, there's something up there, and B, it's a fucking phaser.
I know. I'm like, are there just like 2 scorch marks now on the ceiling of the station?
Or is there like a don't harm anything setting? Like does the stun
it's
setting
on stun.
just do fireworks? I don't know. Like there is one of the use cases of firearms that I can see is it makes a big noise, which is useful on like dispersing animals and things. But
I'm not going to say phasers are silent, but they're definitely not as effective as a gunshot.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's just.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of getting a crowd's attention and actually getting them to listen to you, I really don't. I mean, I also don't think that firing a gun is a good way to do it. I mean, I understand the bang
like
noise,
the bullet could hit someone.
But A, the bullet could hit somebody when it comes back down, and B, then people are scared of you, and they might just turn on you.
Yeah,
it is a trope, but really, I mean, this is only really useful with animals.
I think we've talked about everybody in this episode. Like we focused on everybody in this episode except Odo, who is, the main focus.
A cab.
Yeah, he's such a cop.
Yeah, I don't know. There are aspects of Odo's character that I really like. This being who is trying to navigate a world completely foreign to him, and he has this innocence, especially the way Rene Auberjonois plays him. He has this innocence that I like, which he was really fighting against the writing in this. But he also there is so much unexamined ACAB, just so much.
Although I will say, one thing I really did think was very strong for Odo in this episode was when he just flat out said to Kira, the way you do it as a shapeshifter. Like, he's like, just like, I see that they are trying to frame me. We have to deal with that fact. We can't just brush it under the rug. And he objects to the way that Cisco decides to handle that, but, I think that really speaks to Quark's reaction when the Bajorans accuse him. The Bajorans are like, he's a collaborator, and Quark's like, I hate that man more than anything alive, and he's not a collaborator.
Except he is a collaborator.
Except he is, because
he is a lawful neutral.
He's not a murderer, but he is actually a collaborator.
Yeah, he did. Like, he did work with the previous regime. That is a thing we will come back to. But
that's like trying to say, I love Kira, but she's not a terrorist. Yes, she is, and she'd call herself that.
But of course, Quark is also a collaborator. He was here with the previous regime as well. He is not a reliable narrator on that.
But I do think that there was something to that statement, even if it wasn't. It was not factually true, but it was emotionally true, because what it was getting at was that Odo has a code of honor that he sticks to.
Yeah, it reminded me of in Midnight on the Firing Line, when Sinclair talks about how he knows the sneak attack was not the Minbari, because he knows that's not he's fought the Minbari, and he knows how they fight. When you fight someone, you know them, and he knows that they act more honorably than that. Even though we saw in the Gathering one Minbari not acting honorably, but he knows that broadly the culture has certain things. So yeah, in that same way, like Quark vouching for Odo has that same, this is my adversary, and therefore I know him better, perhaps better than his friends. But even if I do not understand what a collaborator is.
He is extremely just the most lawful neutral character ever. And I have to say, as much as we dog on him for being such a cop, because he is, I do have to say, he really showed his detective chops in this episode. Him putting it together immediately, I'm being framed here. Even before all the damning evidence came out, he's like, yeah, I can see where this is going. He can read the writing on the wall, which makes him a good detective. And that's not necessarily the same thing as being a cop.
Yeah, kind of like Garibaldi.
Mm-hmm.
Who also a cab. And also, there's so much to like.
Yep.
Not as much about his actor.
I think if Odo was played by a different actor, he wouldn't be as likable, but he's played by Rene Auberjonois, who just, even though he's scrumbly, I demand order, he still manages to portray him with so much warmth and, like Sara said, innocence.
And dignity.
Yes.
I don't believe him in his I don't want a couple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it frankly felt like him repeating somebody else's words.
Yeah.
Because it just didn't make sense.
Yeah, and that's not being thinking that everybody needs to couple. So I'm not coupled. But I think there's a there you can I think there is a desire for him not to be, he has a desire not to be alone. But perhaps doesn't know how to achieve that.
Yeah.
And so he instead goes on the misogynistic whole compromise thing that really is absolutely, feels like he is definitely speaking someone else's words, or maybe the only way they know how to do someone who is crotchety crab patch was to have him be misogynist. No, really? No. No. Yeah. Do we have anything else?
I would say overall this episode, it may not have the most original or logical plot, but it does do really good things with the characters. And I can appreciate that. When you have a show where the characters are rich and complex and written so well, you can sit with them for an hour watching them do anything.
Shout out to O'Brien for being an actually good husband.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The O'Briens get flack for having such a bad marriage. It's they don't have a bad marriage. They have a difficult marriage. They have a marriage with challenges sometimes. That does not mean it's a bad marriage.
Yeah, no, it's yeah. I mean,
everybody
expect?
has disagreements and problems. Mm-hmm. It's how you handle them that matters.
I can't wait until we get more into the O'Brien-centric episodes.
I anticipate shenanigans.
Oh, they are many.
Yep, there are many. So,
Sara, any final thoughts from you?
Have more women in the writing room.
Yeah.
But also, the one thing that felt dated about this episode in a different way is the discussion of due process.
Mm-hmm.
It was really good to have someone stand up for due process.
Someone in a position of power who cares about due process? What's that like?
This is why I don't trust people who think that all lawyers are evil, opportunistic scum. I'm like, some lawyers are like that, but lawyers have a purpose in society.
Yeah, and as does justice in
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing tells me that you are more pro police infringing on people's rights than if you are anti-lawyer.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of problems with the system.
Yeah.
Or systems, of course, because legal systems are a little bit different in each country. But the and like there is a problem with too much of regulation being done by litigation. But that is a failure of politicians and policy rather than a failure of lawyers. And yeah,
there are terrible lawyers, just like there are terrible anything else.
Mm-hmm.
There are also really good reasons that lawyers exist.
Exactly.
But and we need more creative and interesting approaches to justice. And I think that's going to be an interesting discussion going forward, especially as, and I will delete this if it doesn't work out, but I am currently applying to grad school. That is editing, sorry, here, just to say that I got accepted. Partly, it's going to be partly communications centered and partly justice centered, and looking at like transdisciplinary justice and stuff. So I look forward to being able to bring some of that to our discussions of justice, should they accept me.
She's going to discipline those transes so good. I had
remember,
to.
kids,
I am not a dom. That's not a dynamic I see myself in.
Should we do favorite parts?
First, I'm going to let you know that the next episode is going to be Soul Hunter, the second episode of Babylon 5.
Is that SOUL or SOLE?
Well, as fun as it would be to have like a podiatrist visit the station, or like have everybody go hunting for like the most perfect Louis Vuitton in 22nd century, we are actually not surprisingly enough, given it's a J. Michael Straczynski Babylon 5 joint. We are talking about soul with a U, as in the psyche, substance unseen part of a human or a sentient being, in point of fact. Although I do kind of want to do the Louis Vuitton.
I mean, I'm just imagining an episode of like spearfishing.
I was thinking of soul, like soul as in the only one, but also,
yes.
I mean, it could be about shoes too.
Yeah, well, that would be in the different version of Man Alone. Okay. Hey, if anybody's got any fan art for the soul.
You can tell it's getting to the end of the episode because we're now on a crackhead shit.
whether you got them hunting Soul the fish or the perfect shoes. Anyway, yeah, we will be discussing that episode in 2 weeks. So what's your favorite part of this episode?
Zilla?
I think I'm still on the Jadzia and the sphere. That was a really nice peek into Jadzia's head, and also a nod to one of my favorite hobbies.
Neat.
My favorite part is after Keiko leaves Cisco's quarters, he says, "I don't want you hanging out with that boy again." I thought you didn't want to talk about that right now. Scurries away.
And mine is definitely, I suggest you get comfortable with your discomfort. That's an idea I really thought about a lot. The virtue of being able to sit with discomfort. It was, if anyone watches the discussion that I had in the conversation about joy thing with Aronach, we talked quite a lot about the idea of the importance of discomfort, and sitting with it, and exploring your discomfort in order to be able to experience joy. Had a whole Khalil Gibran poetry reading on joy and sorrow, which is one of my favorite poems of his. And I think, like, in this case, it's about a transition, of a host transition, which is accidental coding for a gender transition, but also a transition of friendship and a transition of mindset and moving into a new place and on all those kinds of things. And change does make one discomforted, and that, I think, there is wisdom in learning to be comfortable with your discomfort. And I love how generous Jadzia is with making the transition of their friendship so open and kind, and just as easy as possible for Sisko. Like, she's just really generous and kind, and that is the experience that I have had with basically all of the trans people I know, is real generosity and kindness and support in if with you coming on board with them. If you are ready to come on to make the effort, I've always found most people are, in fact, very kind and generous and patient, and don't, if you learn to correct yourself, and if you make the effort, people often are very responsive to that effort. Pedro Pascal had commented in an interview lately, talking about why he stands up for trans people, and one of the things he said was, they would do it for us. And I think, and that to me is my experience. The staunchest allies in the world, and I know a lot of trans people see themselves in Jadzia and have a lot of love for Dax. And so I want to, especially as we're recording in Pride Month, although it'll probably be after Pride Month when we get this out, I want to sort of, as a cis person, shout out the incredible kindness and friendship that can come from trans people. We owe them all the love and support, especially as non-cis or non-trans queer folks. Our siblings deserve all the love and all the support, because boy, are they having a hard time. And talk about a person alone. We don't have to let people be alone with a lynch mob. So that was kind of a tangent I went on there.
No one could call you laconic, Sara.
Have you met an Arab woman who's laconic? No. We are mouthy bitches, and that's just the way we like it. Where can folks find you?
Well, as I mentioned, you can find me here on YouTube as Ren the Barbarian. I make Star Trek content, and I'm also coming out soon with a video about Batman, which I hope to put out around the same time as the Supergirl movie is coming out, and DC will be more in conversation. I've actually filmed it. I feel like I've been saying for years I'm doing this Batman video, but I actually have filmed it now, so all I have to do is edit it. Yay! And so, yeah, so look out for that, hopefully sometime this month. You can also find me on Blue Sky and Tumblr as Ren the Barbarian. So.
And I'm Zilla. You can find my videos on Zylla's Athenaeum in YouTube. I talk about sort of big philosophical and political topics, some activism stuff, some random language and history stuff and board game media criticism and whatever else. I do stream Archeo Gaming, which is playing video games with ancient studies content and then talking about it on my Saturday live streams on Twitch at Zyllable. That's syllable but with a Z. You can also find me under that name on both Blue Sky and Mastodon.
And I'm Sara Ezzat. I make the Fact Culture Critics videos on YouTube, though I don't know, once I start doing the Masters, inshallah, if they accept me, I don't know how much of videos I'll make, although I want to keep trying to do the conversations about joy ones at least. But yeah, you can find me there. You can find me on Blue Sky. And you can also find the podcast on Blue Sky and Tumblr. Ren runs the Tumblr. You can email us. You can follow us on Patreon and help keep the lights on. We really appreciate those who do.
Give us your money.
I know you probably don't have a lot, but if you do, we would appreciate it if you can. We will be back in 2 weeks to talk about Soul Hunter.
Give us your fan art.
Give us your variations on Soul Hunter.
Just do it.
Various kinds of soul.
I want to see things from the anime. Come on, do it.
All right, folks. Live long and prosper.
Bye.
We are explorers.
9 to 5 is produced by me, Sara Ezzat. Editing duties are shared between me and Ren, and our wonderful theme music is made by Samantha Duke.
Oh, sorry, it was Paul Lynch. Still Lynch.
I'm assuming there's no relation to David Lynch.
I don't know. It's not an uncommon. It's unfortunately an uncommon name, and it was the name of the judge, is how that got its name. But
I think Rob Lynch is that guy who was in Teen Beach Movie and Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. No, that's Ross Lynch. I'm sorry. Getting back to it.
Is this gonna just be a running joke? Like everybody vaguely famous named Lynch. No, Rob Lynch is. It's like that Twitter meme of an apricot is a
small vessel in which you put children.
like
yeah. Okay. So